we're gonna hedge heavy on that you bet. Welcome to the 3-on-1 podcast on A7FL.TV, wherever podcasts are sold, and now caffeine.tv on the A7FL channel. I'm Matt Ryan, and I'm joined, as always, by the man blocking the line. He's Big Rob Fabian, and he's my quarterback. You know him, you love him, you already know who it is. It's the Omega Man, Cory Hammond. So let's get right into it, guys. Holy hell, this past weekend in the A7FL, one game shouldn't have felt like an upset, and that's the game we'll talk about first. The Baltimore Watchmen told us all year to watch this, and 20 unanswered points in the second half got them a 33-13 win over the Patterson U. Cory, what are some takeaways that you had from that game this past Sunday, our last game of the year in Asbury Park, New Jersey?
Yeah, I think it was, first of all, it was a lot more competitive than I think the final score says, because that last deluge of 20 points was, just the total effect of all of the things that the Watchmen did consistently the entire game, and the struggles. Even though the U showed that they had championship fight in them, they just couldn't figure it out. But I think, the all as guys from New Jersey, right? I think we all knew who Baltimore and the Baltimore Watchmen were. We were just hesitant to kind of side with the Baltimore sides of our alter egos and really give them the full credit they deserve, because we are New Jersey guys first, and this is a New Jersey league for most of the seasons that we've been in existence. But just like a recent season in which Baltimore was dominant, all of the turmoil preseason led to a situation in which, hey, guys, I'm wrong, because they came out with John Gauze and Ace Boogie, OG Buck, and coming back and forth with those two guys. It was just too much for even a championship level team like the U to handle. And now New Jersey's out, and we're going to find out who's going to be the best in the entire nation. And for the first time in what seems like forever, and it was the year of Baltimore, it's not going to be a Jersey team in the chip.
Yeah, for the first time in 5 years. And Rob, a guy that you pointed out, you said, let's get me a piece of paper, write MVP on it, and go hand it to him right now, is Nick Mays, who had a championship-level performance in that game. He's been a guy we've talked about before in games of the week and in prior seasons. But there was something else driving him in that game. His mother passed away prior to this season due to leukemia, and it was a very inspired performance. And you throw in Ricardo Freeman, you throw that experience on that defense that shut the U out for an entire half. Is that the key to all of this? Is it that Watchmen defense? Is that going to be the thing that gets them past the Nightcrawlers in 2 weeks?
Honestly, it's part of it. That's 100% part of it. Playing behind a guy like Nick Mays, having a performance like that, that's a performance of a lifetime. That's one of the best, not just defensive, I mean all-around performances I've ever seen from an athlete in this league. He took on the best blocks. He was going at the best offensive players. He did his thing. But the other side of this quarter is that, I hate to say it, but, the season's over and we can really talk about it. I hate to say it. The U does not necessarily have a concrete identity. The two-quarterback system works in Baltimore because it is exactly what they talk about. It's not a guess who's going in. If you see Buck first, Ace is coming in after. If you see Ace first, Buck is coming in after. With the U, if you see Moon, we don't know if Moon is just playing the whole game, or we don't know. There's more questions. And in my opinion, the way I feel like they probably should have used their two-quarterback system was give Carlos Crosland the ball when there's a lot of space on the field, but when you get to that 30, give it to Moon and let him do his thing. There was just no clear-cut answer on offense. And the U have to go back to the drawing board. And it's not a slight. It's not me being disrespectful. I was pulling for the U to win. But I mean, after the performance we saw Sunday, honestly, it's time to go back to the drawing board. It's time to call someone your quarterback and keep him there. Not a guy who might play receiver, not an athlete, because it got you far, but it won't get you past the big dogs. And that's what happened Sunday.
Well, and I think
there's an alternate. Just real quick, there's an alternate universe where OG Buck was the quarterback for the U heading into Sunday. And Cory, I'll let you get to your point, but I want to ruminate on the idea of Carlos Crosland wanting to be the guy behind center. Was that because he just said, I'm a wide receiver, receiver. Is that a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy to where in those moments, Crosland should have been the guy, but that idea of I'm a wide receiver kind of forced Kareem Moon into that spot?
Well, I
don't personally think that's what happened. We got to remember Carlos Crosland did get hurt in the middle of the season when things were starting to get hot for him. So he didn't get an opportunity to get a lot of those reps in.
That is fair.
Would have put him in that position to be the starting quarterback.
But even to that point, you saw those flashes of brilliance in the BIC game, in the Snow Tribe game, and he really didn't there. It wasn't there in that game. And I don't know if it was the hesitancy of Ryan Shamar to keep alternating, because we saw Moon in there for large swaths of that game. And in the second half, it felt like the U offense couldn't really get off the blocks. And Cory, you had a point. Let's get to what you were trying to say.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned it. And I think what we're kind of dancing around is both of these teams employed a 2-quarterback system for 2 different reasons. The Watchmen used a 2-quarterback system because they have 2 guys that they should and needed to find to get a way to get on the field. They have 2 quarterbacks, so they have a 2-quarterback system because they have 2 legitimate quarterbacks that both deserve to be on the field. That's the exact opposite reason, in my opinion, that the U found themselves using the 2-quarterback system. Because in essence, based on the things that Carlos Crosland has said and Moon has said, and what we know about them as, pretty high-level athletes and wide receivers in this league, is the U were using the 2-quarterback system to try to put together one, competent level situation. And what they found is that in the regular season, their best offense was to absolutely pummel people with their offensive line and their running game. And their roster shows that with the amount of great running backs they have. But you mentioned it, Matt. There was a kind of an understanding coming into this season, especially not just after the departure of Huff, which was a lot early enough for maybe this team to kind of put it together. But even later than that, the OG Buck finding himself on the Watchmen, it made it that the U's quarterback situation, regardless of what was going to happen, was going to be some kind of, making it work in one way or another. So what I would say is that based on the 2 rosters, the U all season made it work, and probably with, no disrespect to Moon or Crosland, but lesser parts than Ace Boogie and OG Buck, who I think we would all agree are good enough in their own right to be the guy on whatever team that they're lining up on the roster on. It just so happens that with this Baltimore super team that came together, they've been able to make it work, kumbaya, and it's just because they're always successful. The 2-quarterback system, it gets a little hairy if there isn't success. Well, guess what? If you are constantly successful, it makes any argument that I try to make completely null and void. So I think when you look at the 2-quarterback systems, these 2 teams were on opposite reasons for using it. One had too much talent at the position. The other was trying to make up for a lack of it. And, I think it showed that in the second half, when both of these teams had already made the adjustments, and at halftime, it was basically like, all right, we're starting fresh in the third quarter. It was the Watchmen who had more answers. And it looked like the U, even though they had a great season are a great team, at times they didn't have the answers on the third and the fourth adjustments. So right now, that's why the Watchmen are headed to Ohio, and the U are looking at what they're going to be doing next year, depending on, what we're hearing, who knows.
And Rob, I'll ask this to you before we go to the second game of the twin bill we had this past weekend. in terms of being the most hyped to move on to the next round, do you think that the Watchmen deserve to feel like they can win the whole thing after the game on Sunday? Are they the favorite, or are they the underdog against the Nightcrawlers right here, right now?
I'm pretty sure that depends on who you ask, but being a Northeast guy, I think the Watchmen, cat's out the bag, I think the Watchmen have been the best team in the league since week 1. And I've felt that since I saw their lineup. And I do think they're the favorite to win it. Right now, it's just going to be a very fun game to watch and call because of the history behind the game. So, I still think the Watchmen right now have the best chance and are the favorite to win the entire thing. Whether they will or whether they won't is definitely up to them. You know what I'm saying? That's nothing we can say to make them win it or make them lose it. It's 100% up to the players and how bad they do want it. But the Watchmen seem like they're on a mission. If the Nightcrawlers don't come with that revenge factor that I think is going to really help benefit them in this game, they might be in trouble. And again, just to answer your question clearly, yeah, I think the Watchmen are the favorites. They deserve to be here. They've earned it. They beat who they beat. They didn't duck anyone. They traveled when they had to travel. Their season was up in the air prior to 2 weeks before they started. They're dealing with a lot of adversity. So those guys are on a mission, and their mission is going to meet that Florida mission, because the Florida's mission is to prove that the loss to the Rare Breed last season was a fluke, and they have their best chance in 2 weeks. So I do think the Watchmen are the favorites.
But I think the key to that game is going to be that what we saw the Watchmen do to the U, who, to be fair, obviously we got a couple more views on Games of the Week.
Yeah, that's why even this take is weird. That's why the take is kind of weird off the
saw
rip.
that offensive line do to the U. That offensive line had 2 full. Rob mentioned it when the quarterback.
But you gotta think about who they're going against. Like, that works against the U, who are, no offense, a little older. Some of those guys have been playing before I played, and they're still playing after I retired. That's gonna work against them. You're talking about a bunch of guys from Florida who are nothing but speed. You get what I'm saying? Like, maybe being that big doesn't help, but
it looks like
we
the
haven't seen enough.
win the trench battle. If the key to that
we
game,
can't say that. I don't think you can say that.
Well, I think so. Well, based on what we've seen,
we haven't. That's what I'm saying. We haven't seen enough. So that's kind of like, you know what I'm saying? We haven't seen enough.
We've seen enough from the Watchmen to be impressed. That's what I would say. But what I would say is that are the Nightcrawlers skill position players that much faster? That's much more of ballers that they can make up for that discrepancy, if there even is one. I'll admit there might not be one. But if we say that the Watchmen, and I would say the Watchmen trench game, at least the offensive line, we'll see how they can block the speedier guys on the edge of the defense.
They're the best offensive line in the league.
They got to cover guys like Ray Chalk. They got to cover guys like Mark Bagway at wide receiver if Logo Davis is on. And even if he's not, they got other guys like these. And
the Watchmen have the best defensive backs in the league.
What's up?
The Watchmen have the best defensive backs in the league. Period.
I'm not saying they don't.
No, I'm just saying let's just stamp that. There's no better defensive back core than the Watchmen. The frustration I see on quarterbacks' faces when they roll out and they look up and there's just a bunch of chubby guys chasing them and there's no one to throw the ball to, it looks bad. So my thing is, I can't wait to see that matchup. But the trench warfare, again, it's yet to be seen, because even if Florida can match up body to body in the man, what happens to a guy like Anderson who knows? You got to remember, these played here. They played before. This isn't new, and that deal was getting pressure on OG Buck. It wasn't like OG Buck was he worked. So that's what I'm saying. This whole warfare you got going, I don't know why you're looking like that, because I actually saw those guys go up against those guys here. So And that D-line did those offensive linemen in. Buck was running his life. I don't know, maybe you forgot, but that's a game that happened. You know what I'm saying? So to outright say that the Watchmen's offensive line, which again is the best offensive line, offensive line in the league right now, to say that they'll have an easy job,
No,
or they're gonna win, or they're gonna win the trench warfare. I don't know. I think you forgot about that Rare Breed game.
Well, I didn't. And what I remember is that what Mark Bagway employed was that 2 offensive lineman system. And in my opinion, not because he had the guys on the sideline, he just chose scheme-wise. It was similar to the BIC playoff game against the U. We'll see what the Nightcrawlers bring, and obviously they're ready to, get that revenge. And I think that's an intangible factor that is big in this game. But when you just look at the scheme of it, if that's how they're going to employ their offensive strategy, it's not that Mark Bagway can't do it, because we saw him do it consistently against Rare Breed last year. But with the depth of the Watchmen being both the Rare Breed and the best aspects of the Gators, we'll see. And I think that's where the game rests, because it's going to be, if the Watchmen have better matchups in spots, I think one of them is their offensive line might be able to push some people, because I've seen them do it. If the Nightcrawlers have some spots, it might be that athleticism that we've come to expect from them. So, we're going to prep that game in 2 weeks. I think it's time that we discuss what happened in Bonanza High School Stadium in the some would say dry heat of Vegas.
Yeah, it was a boiling hot day on the other side of the country, and you'll get a lot of in-depth looks at this game on the other side of the ball. I was actually talking with Dub Alvarez from the other side of the ball, one of the hosts over there, and we were talking about the fact that the U, for the first time in 4 seasons, won't make it to a championship game. It feels like a changing of the guard. And talking about taking the mantle of the West, the Southwest does have a champion, and it is the Insomniacs, a team that if you asked us at the start of 2023, back in January during the fall exhibition season, if they would be one of the favorites to make it to the national championship, I think all 3 of us would have whooped your ass all at the same time, because that would have felt like an absurdity. But the Sick-Witted had some answers early, but the deeper this game got, so did the resolve of the Insomniacs, and it felt like over time the heat and the pressure got to the Sick-Witted, and they just weren't able to convert. And championship points were a huge part of this game, and a huge part of the Watchmen game. But Cory, taking a look at that game from the quarterback perspective, how was it that Scooter Hamilton would basically take drives off, but still have the confidence to come in, set up scores, bring in Trey Robinson? We were getting a lot of flack in the live chat for our criticism of throwing in Quincy Burtz at the quarterback position during the first half. Do you guys think that was them easing off the gas pedal, or a vote of confidence in a guy that they feel is one of the top quarterbacks in their area?
Well, I actually tried to have a conversation with as many guys as I was, shamelessly trashing on the live, which if you've watched me, I consistently do. And I, am the first one on a bad throw to go up to my receiver and say, my bad, that was a shit pass. So being critical of the passing game and quarterbacks, there's a lot that goes into it. But in my conversation with Quincy, what I said is that based on his performance, which I think we would all agree, there's a lot of situations that he could probably take back. I don't think it was unfair criticism. And I was also maybe a little bit enthusiastic with my criticism in response to the chat egging me on. So he was an unfair target at times. But what I was basically saying in general about all of the quarterbacks, including Scooter at times, which honestly was really impervious, because it was a question, it wasn't a statement, is how do these quarterbacks react to actual defense? How do they respond to actual pass rushes and pressure. And what we saw is that Scooter was able to both use the run game and his play calling to set up more easier situations in the pass more consistently, in my opinion. Right? He was doing the speed options. He was doing the tosses. He was getting RTC and Tone Smith involved. And then he was going up top and delivering on target throws, which is the important part. But when all of those other guys went in, and there's no need to specify them, you saw that at times, especially early in the game for Jeremy Geary and Sickwit, later in the game when Urias came in for Sickwit, and at times with Quincy Burts, even though sometimes he was just missing because he was just a little bit out of sync, which happens when you're getting limited reps. The pressure changes who you are from a guy who has 70% completions, 1,500 yards, 20-plus touchdowns, and no interceptions in the regular season against a Vegas defense as a division, not the top teams, but as a division, has allowed everyone to do anything to them as if they do not care about defense at all. And that's no disrespect, but just factual. You look at teams 4 through 8 in the Vegas division, and they've allowed, on average, closer to an embarrassing amount of points than a respectable amount of points. But what we did see in the championship game was that both Sickwit and especially the Insomniacs have the types of defenses that you need to have to stop offenses in the A7FL. But the one play for me that Sickwit really killed me is when Eric Shufford, a wide receiver, but a baller, right? He was a baller. He gets to the outside, gets to the sideline, and 3 Sickwit defenders cornered him. Now, guys make great plays all the time. But what I saw was a commitment to use the bicep and the forearm muscle for the tackle, and nobody actually going for that Wolverine-style tackle that we saw, primarily in the middle of the field when the U was attacking the Watchman defense. Because if you watch what the Wolverine could do, smaller than all of those guys out in Vegas, and he puts fear into every offensive player in the Northeast, you can do it if you try, Vegas. So with pressure, what we saw from the quarterbacks is that they are more average than their statistics would appear. And it was pretty much Scooter manipulating not only the pocket, the play calling, but also the football with accurate pinpoint precision passes that really changed the game for the Insomniacs.
And Rob, when we looked at the momentum and confidence of this game, when we were talking with Darren Palmer, he had some confidence to him, but the level of swagger on this Insomniacs team does feel like they belong out east. Do you think that swagger has been one of their key drivers because of that level of confidence in how good they know they are? Or is it just a layer of bravado as we talk about players like RTC Wilkerson, and it's only going to get them to a certain point?
That game is ass. I don't even want to answer what you asked me because that game was complete ass. That first half was disgusting from both teams, in my opinion. The only bright spots were sometimes Tone Smith was a bright spot. Scooter actually looked impressive. RTC was trying to get it going, but didn't really get it going. And then he had that unfortunate event happen and he had to leave the game. But it was very anticlimactic for me to leave a game like the U versus the Watchmen to then go to a game where I was even more excited for because of all the talk. And I think that's part of the problem. I think it's a little bit too much talk. I'm kind of tired of hearing people talk. Like I heard guys tell me that Sickwit and the Insomniacs were closer than we thought they were. I never felt that way, but these guys are in Vegas, and that's what they're telling me. Sickwit looked terrible. Jeremy Geary does not look good, and neither did the Insomniacs defense. I'm gonna be honest with you. I didn't like what I saw from Jeremy Geary. I didn't like what I saw from the my mindset is if you're letting Jeremy Geary run on you untouched, what the fuck is gonna happen to you when you run into a Sterry, when you run into a Huff, when you run into an Ace, when you run into a Mark Bagway. If Jeremy Geary can get 40 yards on the ground a pop, it's not looking too good for the Insomniacs defense. So no, I don't think the swagger, I don't think they lived up to any of this shit they was talking. And as far as Q goes, I want to be very clear. I'm not from Vegas. I am not in the flag tournaments. I wasn't around when whoever was doing whatever they were doing and they were good at it. From what I saw on Sunday, Q is ass. I'm sorry. I'm being honest. Like, they try to tell me, oh, this guy, oh yeah, just wait till Q's ass. Q cannot win any games in this league if he was a starting quarterback. He would beat bum teams that I don't talk about anyway. Q is ass. Stop mentioning him when you're talking about the Insomniacs. Because I promise you, if Q takes the field instead of Robinson or again, School was very into it. The Insomniacs are not who we think they are. I promise they're as good as we think they are if Q is at the helm. So please, guys, I don't care about shots. I don't care about the inbox. Until Q shows me he's good, he's I'm sorry, he's and then again, it goes to my Jerry take. Oh, Jesus. I can't let Cory convince me Jeremy comparable to RF from the North, which you might not know. You do a little bit of research, you'll see. Far from that, very far from that. On the contrary, I thought he was more comparable to Corey Hampton when he could run. If I'm being honest, Jeremy Geary had some great throws. They do not run the ball, which is fucking insane. And they're very sick with it. Was very one-dimensional. They play like a flag team, and they got as far as they did because they have the talent to back it up. But they got bumped off here because they wouldn't have made it anywhere else past this point. They cannot compete. We left them off the list a few times in the regular season because they cannot compete at the level they think they can compete at. There's no running backs. It's always a four wide trips. It's ass. The whole offense is ass. And that's why I look at the Insomniacs so funny, because if you're allowing a team that is so one-dimensional like the Sick with it to even score points or get yards on you, bro, nah, y'all in trouble. I think the Insomniacs should really take this time out, stop talking, sit y'all asses down and watch some film. Figure out what works, because the shit that y'all did against Sick with it is not it. I promise you that.
Now, and it's interesting. Go ahead, Cory.
I'm sorry, because not to.
Cory's gonna shoot y'all bail because I was too mean.
No.
That's what Cory's about to do.
No.
Cory likes to make y'all feel good.
No. I just wanted. We talked about this before the show. You are the voice of the champion and the winners, right? And I'm the voice for those who lose, apparently, because I guess I try. But
you're a winner in my heart, Cory.
Well, I appreciate you guys because you guys root for me, and even Rob is saying that Jeremy Geary is a version of me. I think that's almost like a compliment to me and a diss to him. But not to diminish the impact of Rob's statement, because I think that a competitor that plays on Sick with it, if you're a competitor and you hear Rob say that, that should be something that you enjoy hearing, use, and value, because that is something that you can now improve with. If anybody tries to pat anyone on the back for how great they were against all of the other teams in Vegas, and then when it came up to the most important game of the year, they kind of had a clunker, and you want to get the pat on the back, you probably don't have what it takes to be a champion. And that's okay too. I don't have a championship, right? But what I will say is that what we saw, in my opinion, what I saw from Jeremy Geary is, although in the beginning of the game, he obviously had to adjust to facing a defense that was putting pressure on him, and it's not something that he was used to. I do feel at times we saw him against a defense that I respect, a decent amount, find ways to move the ball downfield and execute the offense that they were capable of. I also think that we can't diminish the loss of Lavish T, because Lavish was not the main target on every one of their pass plays. He wasn't, but he was the guy that they would line up at running back. And when you don't have the guy that you line up at running back and he's injured, guess what? You go into a Corey Hammond offense, as some would say, and it's not always
So
going to be.
there's only one running back. Are you shitting me? So Lavish T is
to
the
be
only
clear, Rob,
running back on sick with it? That's insane.
Clear,
That's
Rob,
ass
Travis
too.
isn't even a traditional running back on his own. No disrespect to his game, but
Exactly.
he's more of
Which means there's other players that are not traditional running backs that you could have put back there. And let's be clear, I don't think Jeremy Gary's ass. I didn't say that. I think Jeremy Gary's actually very good as a pocket quarterback, and that's why I compared him to you. It was actually a compliment.
You were just
to
saying
him and you.
He's running against you.
I'm saying if Jeremy Gary, who's not the fastest guy, if Jeremy Gary is able to eat up yards like that, bro, the Insomniacs defense is in trouble. And it's more so a warning to the Insomniacs, and it actually an attaboy to Jeremy Gary because he had the Insomniacs on their heels in the first half. Because they wanted to put in
and what I was going to say is
his
before
deep
stick
ball.
with it to kind of put them to bed, they should take what Rob's saying and use that to get better because they need to. You know, if they completely disband because they lost a championship game and they got to find a way to be on like LeBron and join the winners, and there's going to be a bunch of guys from Sick With It that now realize the culture better for the Insomniacs, right? If that's fine, if they do that, that's fine. But if the Sick With It have what is a pretty good foundation in their first year in this league,
agreed.
And if they build, if they work at it, if they do the same thing that the Force did. Because even though the Force didn't get a better result than they did last year, I would say the Force has a
building. The Force are building. Yeah, they're building. So I'm not mad at the Force. I'm not mad at the Force. It's the talks. It's the talk. That's what I'm attacking. That's why I mentioned that first.
Then let's give that some context then. Because there's another podcast that is a Vegas exclusive podcast, The Other Side of the Ball.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. Those guys.
And do you think that they're going to shoot the Insomniacs the same amount of bail that we think that they would?
You mean the Stick With It because they lost, or the Insomniacs?
Insomniacs okay. In terms of just how they came out of the box, how the inefficiencies. Are they going to shoot both of those teams bail? Are they going to try to give them the impression that Ohio is not going to be a challenge? Because walking out of this, if I'm Skylar Hurd, if I'm Brent Summers, if I'm anybody on that chaos team,
I'm licking my chops.
Well,
if I'm Skylar Hurd and chaos,
if Jeremy Geary is compared to young running Corey Hammond, I mean, we could say a lot about Keno Thomas as a quarterback, but is he faster than Jeremy Geary?
100%. Y'all gonna make me say, the Insomniacs defense played so poorly, in my opinion. You're gonna make me say something positive about Ohio. You guys should be ashamed of yourselves. I haven't said anything positive about Ohio unless we were talking about the Covington heist. I can't believe you're gonna make me say this.
Ohio.
You guys might be up for a bit of a first quarter struggle against Keno and them boys. Because they have a lot to prove.
Like new Omegas, right?
Yeah, but I've been shitting on those guys from the beginning of the season. They have a lot to prove. If they come out with some fire, I still think the Insomniacs are going to win, but they're going to kick you guys in the gut early and have you guys looking a little silly on national television. I hope not.
And on caffeine.tv. When it comes to this game, in the Insomniacs, if they walk in the same way they did against Sick With It, they are going to be in for a surprise, I think, against Ohio. Because they were watching that game. They were taking notes. They were taking as much information in as possible because this is the most we've seen of the Insomniacs in a tight game situation all season. In my opinion, if you are the coach of a team or if you're the leader of an organization and you see a team that was world beaters have such a slow start and then build out to a pretty sizable lead at the end, but it wasn't a dominant win the same way that we've seen end over end in the other 9 weeks of the season. Once you see those inefficiencies, that makes it a brand new ball game. But you can say the same thing about the chaos too, because we shouldn't have the recency bias to where, and we'll shoot them some bail. 3 people were hurt, or however started, like they had like 3 starters, 2 flat tires, etc., etc.
Oh, yeah, get your asses on the field and play football.
Yeah,
but that's
what? The heists are not anywhere near, no disrespect to the heists, but the heists are not anywhere near the same threat that the Sick With It were. And to be fair, the Insomniacs started fast. I think they almost pulled the Nightcrawlers in that first half where they're putting in backups too quickly against the team.
That's what I mean is
lay down.
They decided to rev the ball up, and then that started the second half where they got the turnover on the 3-on-1. That's when things just started completely.
Once my guy Lyons started roaring down the field, even though we wanted to call him all kinds of different names because whatever. We're in Asbury Park, my guy.
Wearing my glasses this week, and somehow I see better.
But I was also I'll take responsibility for that. We've seen Lions return on games of the week before. I was pointing to the wrong thing for Matt. It's my fault. I'll take responsibility for that. Matt's great at what he does, but he's doing 700 things at once. So if I can't point to the right name, then it's on me. I'm the idiot. But shout outs to both of those teams at the end of the day, because it was much better competition, much higher level football than we've seen from most of the matchups in Vegas. But at the end of the day, it comes back to this for me. There's a lot of dudes in the Insomniacs that want to be the star, but you can't be the star on a team where you're rotating in and out every 3 series with another guy that's getting just as good of stats if he even gets the chance at it. So,
are you not tired of this narrative?
Do I ever get tired of anything, Rob?
No, I mean, how many of these guys do you talk to that literally say, "Hey, Cory, I want to be the star. I don't want to win. I just want to do
all
my
of them
best."
say that they're
Like,
about to retire.
hearing?
It's too much for them. And I've been in this league 10 years losing, and I just don't understand any of this.
But you got to understand that we said this before. Vegas has run the A7FL. When you're speed running something, you're not really taking into account the toll that it takes on your body.
You're talking about toll it takes on body?
Hold on. No, okay. Your mental health is different from what we know is a regular thing. You're not normal, Cory. You like what happens to you out there. I don't. Like saying, they win week out their mind. They're treating it like, let's just call it a spade. They're calling flag. They're treated as such. It's not flag. You can't play 7 up games in one. You can't do that. I did it. Nice. You can't do that. It's not the okay thing to do. It's not a tournament for a few minutes. You're out there with grown men bumping by and thudding us with no pants on. So this is a total, I understand to agree where a guy like Travis has 5 touches and says he saw on Monday. Bro, there's plays he's in there, he's probably getting hit and we don't see it. Even without the ball, because he's that dangerous of a player. So my thing is, I get it. They want to retire because this is too much, but they're trying to put Vegas on a map by winning or earning their first championship in the league in their their third year? Second or third year?
Second year.
Second year.
And they're
would be
that
very
much closer, Rob.
Which would be very impressive. Which would be very impressive. But they're starting to see this shit isn't a joke. This shit isn't easy. It's just not. And that's what you're seeing happening right now.
I think that's a great place to end it. Next week on the show, we were gonna do it this week, but it's getting a little late, and I like where the conversation ended. We're gonna talk about vacation plans for the other teams in the A7FL. And, well, the Boston Omegas are going to go to a few Red Sox games. They're going to get some chowder. The BIC,
Saturday, we're having an award ceremony. I don't know what we're getting awards for. We didn't win a game, but it'll be great to see my guys. Now, I have that ride now, finally. They did it all season. I'll try.
Cory is the MVP, the most valuable trier.
Yeah, there you go. MVP.
But tickets and on-sale information will be coming soon for the first ever 3-on-1 live show. We will be celebrating the 1-year anniversary of the 3-on-1 podcast. It'll be me, Rob, Cory, and a host of others. And that will be, I believe, Friday championship weekend. For more information on the championship, go to a7fl.com/championship. That's a7fl.com/championship. You see what Cory's wearing? If you want to buy one yourself, you can go to tinyurl.com/A7FL merch. That's tinyurl.com/A7FL merch. And we will be back next week with a vacation planning edition of the 3-on-1 podcast, and we'll dive a little deeper into the Final Four of the A7FL. The conference championship gets decided after the 4th of July weekend. Until then, for Big Rob Fabian and Cory Hammond. Actually, nah. Should I? Nah, he's not worth it. But speak my name, and it won't be a fun time. For Big Rob Fabian and Cory Hammond, I've got to live up to what I'm about to say because don't be an asshole.
Well, all you can do is try, Matt. And I'll try. Will you?